I almost swallowed my gum. What a way to start the video. Most of us car enthusiasts love making our cars a reflection of ourselves. Whether it be drag strip demons, lowriders, mud bogging trucks, drift cars, or anything else, we love for our cars to stand out from the others. But how do we get here? Which steps were taken throughout the 20th century in order to give us car modders the opportunity to put big engines, body kits, underglow, and more on our cars? Well, you clicked on this video, so I'm pretty sure you're interested to see these answers and more. I'm Joey Sepulveda with spoilers, so sit back and enjoy the show. The debate of what constitutes as a hot rod or a tuner has been going on for years, with each person having their own definition of the word. I poured around the internet for a few hours, and this is what I got. A hot rod is any carbureted vehicle that has been modified in any way, shape, or form that increases its performance. There's nothing on here. So basically, the only real difference between a hot rod and a tuner car is that, one has a carburetor and the other one has an ECU. So, it may not be the exact definition, but here you go. Hot rodding really got its start in the Prohibition era by bootleggers. After getting caught one too many times, the bootleggers came to the conclusion that, I should probably be faster than the cops that are chasing me. These guys started putting in the work to make their cars a ton faster, and faster they became. They even got a cool nickname to go along with the new edgy lifestyle, the Moonshiners. Well, the police weren't happy about all this fancy schmancy engine tech that the hot rodders had. So soon, they wanted faster cars, and the Moonshiners wanted faster cars, and the cops, and the Moonshiners, and the cops, and basically just went all out of control until everyone was having super fast cars. And by faster the cars, I mean they hit 0 to 60 in like 10 seconds. After the alcohol ban was lifted, the old Moonshiners suddenly had nothing to do with these ultra fast cars they made. Man, what can you do if you have a fast car, and then Johnny from across the street says his car is faster than yours? You race Johnny and you leave his scrawny little butt in the dust. And thus, car modding for pleasure was born. Now there were guys that were making their cars even louder, faster, and more stylish than ever before. But this was in the midst of the Great Depression, so it all kind of fizzled out pretty quick. After the Great Depression, this little thing called World War II happened, and everything went into the war effort. Big automakers like Ford and GM didn't even come out with any new models in that time period. We did get the Volkswagen Beetle though, from the Nazis. So, thank you, Nazi Germany? That's not going to go over well with YouTube. After the war, the economy blew up, and all of a sudden, both modded and factory cars were starting to get all awesome again. The 1950s were crucial for the growth of car modding because for once, people actually had money. All of a sudden, people had access to tons of different kinds of parts, and the space age kicked off where a bunch of cars had some sick rocket fins near the taillights. But something huge is coming. Something so big, something so important in hot rodding culture, something so wonderful, so influential, that even I still use it today. I'm talking about the advent of the Chevy Small-Block V-8, one of the most influential engine designs of all time. Sure, as of right now, it was still the 327, but it's a 350's older brother sharing many design cues between them, as well as later big blocks. These engines were put in everything from trucks to vans to coupes to everything, because it was so reliable, and it could make so much power. Once again, for the time, that was like 180 horsepower. That was flying. I know there were a lot of popular mods back then, but I couldn't exactly find a source on the internet that, cut it down to very specific things. So I just asked my grandfather, who was alive during that time. Apparently, back in the day, it was cool to take off the handles on your car, making the whole body look flush and together. This is included, but not limited to, door handles, badging, trunk locks, and more. So basically, my grandfather was in his teen years. He was jumping into the car like Speed Racer. There it is, it's your Speed Racer quote for the week. Funny story about my grandfather. When he was modding his, it was an old Fleetline. Yeah, it was an old Fleetline. And he was modding it, and he took off all the locks and stuff like that. And his dad, my grandpalito, he asked him, how are you gonna get in that car? And my grandfather said, I can just jump in. Then my grandpalito took another look, said, how are you gonna open the trunk? And my grandpa had nothing to say to that. Also, apparently, my grandfather was in a car club that actually started the idea of underglow. No, in the 50s and early 60s, they had underglow on their cars that they created. That obviously didn't catch on until around 40 years later. Oh my gosh, my grandfather was a racer. Also, as a Mexican American, this is probably the time where I mentioned that this is where lowrider culture got started. It's not my thing, but there's no denying these cars look beautiful. I just prefer something that does wheelies. I wish my car did wheelies. Around the 60s, Pontiac came out with this big muscly beast called the Pontiac Gto, which is actually believed to have kickstarted the age of muscle cars, which is The best age in car history. Not biased. I'm not biased. I'm biased. All of a sudden, America was focused on quarter miles and 0 to 60 times. Basically, they shoved a giant V8 into a moderately sized coupe, and if you weren't giggling when you were driving, then you weren't going fast enough. In these days, mods were all about power. This meant new cams, new engine parts, fat rear tires, posi traction differentials. If it made your car faster, you wanted it. However, the age of muscle cars was doomed to a rough ending. Sure, things were starting to slow down in the early 70s, but what really killed it was the gas crisis in the mid 70s to early 80s. All of a sudden, a gas-guzzling V8 wasn't going to cut it for driving from place to place. And so cars got smaller and uglier, in my opinion. But all was not just But all was not yet lost. But all was not let. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept. But not all was lost. See, where American cars were still struggling to make the transition from big cars to smaller fuel-efficient cars, imports started to take over the game. Suddenly, BMW, Volkswagen, and other Euro and Japanese cars started to pop up more and more. And to be honest, it's still kind of that way today. Overall, the 70s were not a big decade for modding cars, but the 80s proved to be a little more fruitful. For example, fuel injection technology was getting good enough that it started to become widespread. For those of you that don't know, fuel injection is carburetion's younger brother. Both of them control the air-fuel ratio, but fuel injection is controlled by a computer and it shoots the fuel directly into cylinders. And by the mid-1980s, the tuner age, as well as the ricer age, suddenly got into full swing. With the advent of hip-hop, a lot of people wanted to have the best sound system possible. A lot of cars started to have giant subwoofers and tweeters thrown into them just to get the loudest, best sound for their music possible. This, combined with the growing popularity of cassettes, meant that people were blasting all kinds of music with their stereos and wheels. But these weren't enough for Los Americanos. I said that so white. Los Americanos. That was kind of Italian. I can't speak with a Mexican accent. No, we wanted to stand out even more, and before we knew it, the legends of the mini truck fad began. A mini truck is a smaller version of a full-size pickup. I'm sure you needed that explanation. But back in the 80s, people would fill the beds with speaker systems and shove hydraulics underneath to make the bed tilt or dance, as they said. It's easily one of the most forgotten mods, yet if any of you ask your parents about them, they'll remember it probably no problem. Body kits had also picked up in popularity, leading to a lot of strange looking cars. For some reason, stickers were also pretty big back then too, probably because they add so much horsepower. A lot of these trends continued through the 90s, but as hip-hop culture began to change, so did cars. Probably my least favorite mod from this time has got to be the donk. Donks are giant chrome rims on mostly classic cars. They make the car taller, less safe, hard to drive, all to look a little bit cooler. I can see the draw, but not my thing. Underglow was also created, again, back in 1987, but really picked up in the 1990s to 2000s. I know it's a common thing to hate Underglow now, but personally, I love Underglow if it's done right. That's probably one of my biggest problems with the car community. Everyone's all like, oh, you're just a rice. Just have fun with it. However, on top of these, there was just an explosion in bad car mods. You had coil chopping, 6-inch exhaust tips, cheap Chinese body kit parts, chicken wire grills, taillight silhouettes, the list goes on and on and on. Oh my gosh. The 2000s are where cars really started to calm down a bit, even with the creation of the Fast and the Furious series. With the computer age already in full swing, cars became more efficient, mods were able to be ordered to your front door, car wraps were finally cheap enough for the average consumer, and fart cans were finally available for the Honda Civic. CD players became widespread, meaning people could fit even more music in their car. And spinners were cool, especially if they're on your Hummer H2. Power mods became even cheaper, and the internet opened up everyone to years and years of different car mods and types. This is the beginning of the age we live in now, where no single car type stands above the rest. American Muscle was also starting to make a comeback with the new Challenger, the new Chargers, the new Mustangs, new Camaros, all of that you see today. People had video game systems in their car, the whole thing was just a giant acid trip. But as ugly as they can be, I grew up in it, and I still look back really happily on them. In conclusion, no matter the year, car enthusiasts always found a way to personalize their car. Whether it was tasteful or untasteful, it was a reflection of who they were. And that's what makes cars so special. You can literally do whatever you want. Whether you're a hot rodder, a tuner, a ricer, you should do what makes you and your car happy. Thanks for watching. I'm really glad you stuck around to the end. A lot of people don't do that. If you like the video, please leave a like, maybe subscribe, something like that. You know, I'm a small channel. I'd love to get up off the ground a little more. My promise still stands. If I somehow reach 200 subscribers by January 1st, I'll shave off my beard. I know it doesn't mean much, but you guys have not seen baby-faced me. Actually, yes, you have. Oh man, that one video. I'm not linking the video, but it was my freshman year of high school. Oh man, I'm so glad I grew the beard. But yeah, if I reach 200 subscribers, I'll shave the beard. So yeah, that about wraps it up. I never know how to finish videos, so thank you so much for watching. Peace.